Like everything was happening so fast, my mind could not catch up to what was happening. Hey y'all, I'm so excited to share with y'all our positive birth story. We had our little girl just almost 4 weeks ago, and it was a beautiful, very wonderful experience, and I just want to share with you today the story of how she arrived. So I think it is so important that we prepare our mind for our own labor by listening to other positive birth stories. That is exactly what I did. No matter how many times you've given birth, I think it is so wonderful to help prepare you mentally for your own birth and labor. Unfortunately, today in our society, we only hear the negatives and the scary, traumatic birth stories. So I would like to offer some encouragement to you today as you listen to our positive birth story. Just a couple weeks ago, I shared our birth story vlog. I'll have that linked right here. That is just the raw and real footage of the day she arrived. However, in this video today, I'm just going to walk you through the story of how she got here so you can get a little more insight on how our birth went, as well as share with you some tips that helped me to cope with an intervention-free all natural labor. These are tips that could be applied in a home birth setting, in a birth center, or even in a hospital. So if you don't already know, I'm Amy from the Harris Homestead. If you're new to my channel, please hit that subscribe button. I share new videos each week on our homegrown lifestyle at our wholesome homestead. So I hope you enjoy listening to our home birth story. So to begin, my husband and I decided on a home birth with this baby. My son is 1.5 years old and he was born in a hospital setting. I was 41 weeks and my doctors kind of guilted me into going ahead and inducing. Looking back now, I would have probably done things differently, but you live and you learn. All in hindsight, it turned out to be a wonderful birth experience, but I feel like I was not relaxed through most of the labor. I was constantly having to fight and voice my opinion on what I did and didn't want during the labor and delivery, so I knew there had to be a better way to birth. So that is why we decided on a home birth for this little girl. I had full confidence in the ability of my body to give birth in the most natural way possible in the comfort of our own home. So since my son was induced at 41 weeks and was not actually born until 41 weeks and 3 days, I kind of had the feeling that she was going to be around the 41 week mark or later. So when 40 weeks hit, I was not really getting that antsy about anything. We were just waiting on her to pick her birthday. So right at 41 weeks and 1 day pregnant, at midnight on the dot, my waters broke. I was very excited and awoke my husband and told him what was happening, told him to just go back to sleep and get some rest. I moved into the living room so I could labor quietly on the couch and time my contractions. However, they were so mild and about 10 to 12 minutes apart, I was able to really relax and just drift back and forth to sleep through the contractions, not really thinking anything was going to happen very soon. And a little side story, one of the ways I prepared for this labor was through a lot of prayer. So I had prayed that I would have a much faster labor. I had prayed that the Lord would be with us, give us peace about a home birth. I know that home births can be a little scary for many, but he gave us such a peace right up front. So through all of my prayer and chatting with the Lord about this birth, he kind of laid this theme on my heart of rain and water washing over us, waves crashing onto the sand, his love washing over us like rain. So that was just kind of the constant theme I kept feeling that he was laying on my heart. So the moment I moved into the living room to time my first contraction, it started raining really, really intensely. It was kind of already sprinkling, but at that moment, the rain became an extreme downpour. And the entire duration of my first contraction, the rain continued on in that same downpour. As soon as I hit stop on my phone to stop the contraction, the rainstorm stopped. I still kind of get chills thinking about it, but in my mind, that was the Lord telling us that his love was going to wash over us like the rain washes over us. So it was just a really special moment, and I was so honored that he spoke to me so directly in that moment through the rainstorm. So I labored on the couch from about midnight till about 6 a.m. when my husband and son woke up. Nothing was intense then. I was really expecting me to be in labor like this for the next 6, 7, 8 hours. My midwife had planned to come around noon and check on me. I was really just sitting back and relaxing and letting the contractions come on, just kind of distracting my mind. And that's another tip I can give you. If you do go into labor pretty early and you're having mild contractions, especially for first-time moms. Don't get too excited about it. It might not turn into anything. It might be a 24 hours or more before you get into true active labor. So just take it slow, relax, keep your mind distracted, and don't really think about your labor. The less you think about it during those early contractions, the shorter your labor will seem and the more relaxed your body can get to get your body into that active labor phase. So when my husband and son woke up, it was all of a sudden like my body just kicked into full gear. I think mentally all of a sudden I realized we had a place to take our son where he would be safe and someone could watch him. My husband was awake to help me work through contractions. My midwife could now get on the road and head this way. So it was kind of like everything just switched on at the perfect timing. So at 6 o'clock, the contractions moved to about 2 to 3 minutes apart. I told my husband that things were picking up and we needed to get things going. He got my son sent off. I texted my midwife and told her that things had changed. My contractions were picking up much faster than we had originally expected, and that she should probably head my way. She had about a 2-hour drive, and all of a sudden things picked up even faster. They were almost 1 to 2 minutes apart, and that's when I really knew things were getting intense because I was having to stop. I kind of felt most comfortable in a leaned over, forward leaning position where I could just close my eyes and really focus and breathe through the contractions. And then between contractions, I was really not able to do much. I was trying to keep my mind in a really focused state so I could prepare myself for the next contraction. We moved into the bedroom just to get into our really relaxed stage. He laid on the bed with me and just kind of held my hand and comforted me. In my first labor, I really got a lot of comfort in him offering counter pressure on my back. But in this labor, I really just wanted the comfort of him holding my hand and his nearness. Each labor is probably going to be different. I found that for myself. You're going to want different comfort measures in different labors. So in this labor, I really got the most comfort in just being really still with slight swaying movements, and most of the contractions I was leaning forward. While we were laying in the bed, I got an extreme shiver, and that is actually a sign of your body going through transition. Some women actually throw up, some women get shivers, some women get really, really cold and shaky, and that was the case for me. That was when my body was going through transition, and that is the phase when your cervix is going from the last 7-8 centimeters to the full 10 centimeters to get ready for your baby to be born. And this is the point when a lot of women in a hospital ask for an epidural. You will get thoughts in your mind that you want to run away, that you want to get away from the pain, that you just have to have an epidural. And that is when it is so important to stay really focused and receive encouragement from your birth team. My birth team was not here at that moment, so I received some encouragement from my husband, and I remember him telling me, don't fight it, just let your body do what it's supposed to do. God's got this, He's with us, and his encouragement really helped me get through that transition phase. I labored in my bedroom until about 9 o'clock when the midwife assistant arrived. Thankfully, she arrived with a birth pool. We were planning a water birth, so she went ahead and got the birth pool set up. So around that time, I felt the urge to use the restroom, and that's typically your body giving you a sign that it wants to eliminate everything that's already in your body before the baby comes. So I knew we were really getting close at that point. I was in the bathroom for probably 20 minutes when my midwife arrived, and once she saw me laboring in the bathroom and could tell the intensity of my contractions, she knew I was already at the stage of pushing. I asked her if she wanted to check me because I had not been checked the entire pregnancy, and she was like, no, let's let you settle down. Since your water's already broke, I don't want to do a lot of vaginal checks if we don't have to. And I think you're already in the pushing phase anyway. So I was like, whoa, what? I feel like I've only been in labor like 3 hours. I can't already be at the pushing phase. And she was like, no, I think you are. Do you want to make it back into the bedroom? So she and my husband convinced me to make it back into the bedroom. Still had not dawned on me. It was like everything was happening so fast. My mind could not catch up to what was happening. So we made it back into the bedroom. I walked past the birth pool and realized I was probably not going to make it into my water birth. But that was okay at the moment. I was just ready to have my little girl. So I made it onto the bed, onto all fours. And that's another tip I would like to offer you. In my first hospital birth, I was laying in the bed and had sort of a handle to pull again. And it was just not the most comfortable birthing position. I was not letting gravity help pull my baby down when I was laying flat. So this time around, I labored on hands and knees when I reached the pushing phase. And I feel like it helped to bring her down into my pelvis much faster. My pelvis was open and relaxed, and it was just a much more comfortable pushing position than my previous birth. If you are giving birth intervention free without an epidural and you can move into an alternate pushing position, especially if you're in the hospital, ask if you can push and in a different position. It is much more favorable to let gravity work with your body than against your body. Once I was in the bedroom on hands and knees, it was about 10 minutes of pushing. Now, I say pushing, I don't really feel like I physically did much pushing. I feel like my contractions really just pushed my baby out. So that is another thing that is kind of difficult to understand and explain if you've never had an intervention-free labor. If you are non-medicated, your body, you're gonna feel the contractions and your body is gonna just push your baby out. It kind of just does what it needs to do, and you just kind of have to be prepared to go along for the ride mentally. It's gonna start pushing on its own, and in a hospital, they're going to tell you to push for 10 seconds or to bear down, like you need to have a bowel movement. However, this time I had none of those feelings. I literally just held myself up, braced myself, breathed through the contractions, and let my contraction push my baby out. It's really interesting feeling when you aren't really pushing, your body's just pushing for you. It's kind of an out-of-mind experience, and a totally beautiful experience. If you've never experienced it, again, it's hard to explain. So after about 3 or 4 of those contractions pushing my baby down, she was born. The first one was me crowning. I remember my midwife telling me that I was crowning and that I just needed to keep breathing through and breathing my baby down, and that's exactly what I did. I just focused on my breath work through each contraction and between contractions. I just kind of let my mind mentally rest, relaxed on my husband's shoulder, and just kept my mind on the prize. Another thing, just in those really intense moments of transition, of the crowning phase, when your baby is actually coming through the birth canal, keep your mind focused on the reward you have at the end. You can get through any portion of labor, no matter how hard and difficult it may seem. So after her head was born, my midwife told me to just wait on the next contraction and that my body would push her on out. This is where it varies in a hospital. A lot of times after the baby's head is born, the doctor will physically rotate their head and then tell you to give one last push, and they'll kind of just pull the baby out. This is not done in a home birth setting usually. The midwife tells you to wait on the next contraction, and your body is going to rotate the baby so that the shoulders come out vertically to minimize tearing. Whereas in a hospital setting, when the doctor does the rotation, you may not be having a contraction when they tell you to push. So you're more likely to tear, and it might be a little more painful, especially if you're not on pain medication. It was probably only about 30 to 45 seconds where the next contraction came, but I remember so anxiously waiting to meet her. It felt like an eternity. Then the next contraction came, she was fully born, and then my midwife told me she was here, and I turned over and they laid her on my chest, and it was the most beautiful moment, just being in our bedroom with my husband, with our new little girls, in the comfort of our own home. That's what I absolutely loved about our home birth. I was able to just lay in my bed and relax and not have tons of people in and out checking on me, poking and prodding on me. I was literally just able to relax there with my baby. Of course, the midwife did some checks on her, but then she just left us alone and let my husband and I relax in the feeling of meeting our new baby. We weren't in any rush to deliver the placenta. We were going to let it detach on its own and then deliver it when it was ready. So it was probably about another hour before I actually delivered the placenta. We were kind of in shock at how quickly it happened, and we finally went ahead and texted all our friends and family and told them that she was born. Most of them did not even know I was in labor. It was happening so quickly, we didn't even have the time to think about texting them. Our minds were just trying to catch up to what was happening. I absolutely loved having a birth team who was invested in our care. When you're in a hospital setting, you often don't even know the doctors or nurses that are caring for you. That was the case with my first birth. My original OB was not on call when I went into labor, so I had a doctor I didn't even know who delivered my baby. The aftercare was also wonderful. She stayed around for about 6 hours after the birth, and then she and her assistant alternated the next couple of days, coming back and checking on us. Then she came back at a week to check on us. So it was just like all these aftercare visits in the comfort of our own home. And I just think that all women deserve that, to be cared for in their own home in the postpartum time. So my daughter is waking up, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video, but I want to leave you with the last few tips. Mentally prepare your mind for labor. Remember, your body was made for this. You can do this. Know the why behind you want to have an intervention-free labor, whether it be at home or in a hospital. I really am against interventions when they're not necessary. I like to keep things as natural as possible, especially in birth and a low-risk pregnancy. There are definitely times when interventions are needed, but most pregnancies they're not. So mentally prepare your mind, remind yourself that you can do this. Also physically prepare your body. The way I did this was I did a lot of spinning babies routine. This is a great website you can check out for learning the ways to optimally prepare your body to get your baby in the proper head position. If your baby is breeched, there are ways that they teach you to help your baby turn. Most of the time when babies are breeched, people automatically turn to a C-section when that does not have to be the case. A lot of times babies will turn on their own at 39 weeks sometimes. There are also lots of techniques on the Spinning Babies website that will teach you how to help your baby turn and rotate out of the breech position. And then I also really focused on prayer and affirmations. So I already mentioned that I had spoken with the Lord a lot throughout my birth. He really met us in our labor. I had a labor playlist, and the song You Make Me Brave by Amanda Cook that talks about the waves crashing on the sand and his love washing over us came on right as I entered the bedroom, just moments before my daughter was born. So it was another really special way that he spoke to me during my labor. I also had birth affirmations and birth scriptures that I prepared that I hung in the place I had planned to birth. I actually did not give birth in the room where I had them hanging because that was where we had planned our water birth, and we ended up having our little girl in our bedroom. So I really focused on the birth affirmations before I gave birth. I did a lot of stretching in that room, so anytime I was stretching, I really focused and meditated on those birth scriptures and affirmations. I have a free download below if you would like to check out those birth affirmations. If you are pregnant and want to bring some positivity into your place of birth, check those out. You can download them down below, print them out, hang them up in your birth room, in your hospital, in your birth center, wherever you plan to give birth, and it just really offers you some encouragement. I hope you've been encouraged by our birth story and gained some insight on different ways to think about birth, different options you have for birth, and just do your research. Ask questions, know that your birth team works for you, and that ultimately it is your birth and you decide how you want to give birth to your baby. And know that no matter what experience you have, what outcome you have, whether it be at a hospital or at a home birth, all birth is beautiful. And thank y'all so much for watching today. Did you enjoy listening to your birth story?